What is up? My name is Melissa McCack, and this is Room 51, where we talk all things board gaming. This is Roll for Thought, where we talk about some sort of thing in the board gaming universe, some sort of topic. And today, what I want to talk about is nostalgia in board gaming. So the reason I want to talk about this is because we were sent this game, Safari Turbo. And that's pretty much what I'm going to be featuring in this episode today. This game, Safari Turbo. And the reason being, so as we were playing this game, it wasn't a game that was necessarily up my alley. It is a racing style game. I usually like racing games, but this was a sort of a roll and move type of game. Though there were ways to mitigate that, right? You had different cards and special abilities that you can use to mitigate like where you were going along the track. But along the track, there were different like events that would happen. So wherever you would land, some sort of event would go off, right? Maybe it was something good, something bad. But pretty much the first person to get to the end of the finish line would win. And it made me think of this story of, I guess, my childhood. Something that happened to me a little while back, let's say. And I was a kid. I don't even know how old I was. I must have been like 7 or something. And I was out with my grandma. And we went to the bank. I was chilling, sitting on top of a windowsill or something while she was doing her bank things. And this dude came in, and he was not supposed to be in there. He was not supposed to do what he was about to do, but he wanted to sell me a game. He comes up to me, and he's like, "Hey, would you like this game?" And my grandmother was right there, and she was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "Heck yeah, I do." And then I don't know how much he sold it to her for, but she bought me the game. Very nice. And it was this racing car game, and it was something totally different from what I had ever experienced before in terms of board games at this point. I was 7, right? So, like, I don't even know what board games I played when I was 7. Maybe Chutes and Ladders or something? But this had a car, you know, it was like a book. You opened it up, and I'm pretty sure it was a roll and move type of game. I don't quite remember it that well, but I think it had like a spinner, and I wasn't really introduced to spinners before, so I was like, what? This is crazy. Safari Turbo sort of gave me that feeling of nostalgia, and it reminded me of that story with my grandmother when I bought, or I didn't buy it, she bought it, but when I got one of my first, games that also like introduced me to, hey, board games could be a little bit different. They could be a little bit new. They could have actual little like model cars and stuff. That was really cool for me, and it was sort of a beginning into the world of, hey, maybe I kind of like new games and stuff. You know what I mean? So that was what Safari Turbo did for me, and it sort of get me thinking about how sometimes a game doesn't quite need to be up your alley or something that you necessarily really like playing, but it could give you a certain experience, right? Like maybe it reminds you of a time that you spent with your family, right? Or maybe that is the moment where you get to spend, you know, time with your family. For example, I'm not huge on the game Munchkin, but I have very fond memories of playing Munchkin with my friends, right? And I cherish those moments. Those were great. So Safari Turbo, sure, it's not a game that I'm going to pull out all the time or anything. And I do think that this would be a game that would be fantastic for like kids and families who maybe don't really play board games all that much. Safari Turbo could be really cool. It could up the stakes a little bit because it'll be pretty familiar to people where it's like, yep, roll and move. Things happen based on where I landed, but I get to actually mitigate things, right? I get special abilities. I get these cards and everything that I could use and whatnot. So, and that could be really cool for someone. I think this could be a cool way to introduce, especially children, to, hey, there could be board games that do something different, that do something kind of cool and new. Another thing is, sometimes when playing games, you just play it for the experience, the fun of it. Doesn't necessarily always have to come from the mechanisms themselves of the game, right? Sometimes it doesn't even really have to come from the theme, but maybe sometimes it is from the theme. Maybe it's the theme that really gets you, right? One game that comes to mind is Battlestar Galactica, the board game. I talk about that game all the time on Room 51. Now, I consider that board game to be very good. But the theme itself also seriously drags me in because Battlestar Galactica was a show that I loved, right? It was one of my favorite shows of all time. It is one of my favorite shows of all time. For a long time, it was my favorite show ever until She-Ra, Princesses of Power, came through. Go check that out. But anyway, so yeah, that is Safari Turbo for me. That's sort of the feeling it gives to me. And I was sort of wondering for any of you, do you play games sometimes just because you have fond memories with it, even though it's maybe not a game that you like all that much anymore? Or it's never a game that you really liked, but you always sort of had fond memories with it for whatever reason. Or maybe you play a game that sort of reminds you of something else, kind of like what Safari Turbo did for me, right? It gave me that sense of nostalgia, which in and of itself is fun and a cool experience, even though the game itself wasn't necessarily up my alley. So I was wondering, have any of you had that sort of experience? Let me know down below in the comments. You could also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at This Is Room 51. You could tell us about it there if you'd like. And yeah, we stream every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. EST on Twitch at Room 51 Live. You could also check out our Room 51 merchandise, and that is in the description below, the link to our Redbubble account. Anyway, this has been Roll for Thought, Room 51. I will catch you next time.